안녕하세요, Nikimida. Hi everyone, my name's Nikki Stones and I'm the neon-loving K-pop obsessed drag queen from Dublin, Ireland.
Hi, my name's Krevice. I'm a trans drag queen streamer from Melbourne, Australia. They do say any hole is a goal, but any crevice will make your girlfriend jealous.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a drag artist here on Twitch and my drag name is LezBaeAnna.
Hello, my name is Marisol. I am sassy, sweet, pretty, and petite. I am a drag queen as well as a Twitch streamer.
Hi, I'm Chelora and I'm a non-binary drag queen from Canada. My name is Ivy, or I'm known on Twitch as my drag persona, Red Ivy.
I identify as a trans non-binary woman, and my labels have changed throughout my transition and coming out as trans.
I identify as non-binary.
I consider myself non-binary.
I identify as a trans woman.
I identify as gender fluid, but I suppose I'm just kind of non-binary, gender fluid-ish. One day I feel like a woman, one day I feel like a man. Majority of the time I feel somewhere in the middle.
About a year and a half ago, I was kind of disassociating myself between who I am out of drag and who I am in drag, and I realized that I didn't necessarily have to do that because they are all one person, they are all me, and there are different expressions of gender, and I felt like a good balance for me, for my mental health, was the non-binary. Well, if you do not feel that you fall into either male or female gender roles or stereotypes, then you might possibly consider yourself non-binary. I mean, that's how I found my gender identity.
I feel like deep inside I've always known, but I didn't come to terms with it or fully accept it until high school. To anyone who might think they are or unsure, how I felt was like stuck in a world I did not belong in. I felt like I didn't fit in way more beyond just simplicity of what male masculinity is seen as. I am not saying, though, that males have to be masculine, even trans men, as no one owes that to be seen as a male or a female respectively. It's just me. It's more of a sense of belonging in a persona I never felt comfortable in.
When I first realized that I was non-binary, it was when I first started doing drag and I was volunteering for an organization called Girls Rock. It is essentially a camp where youth can come and learn about themselves through the power of music. We basically formed a band. Within that week, they learned how to play a certain instrument that they wanted to do, as well as go through many different courses about an array of topics, one of those being gender identity and sexuality, as well as some other topics. In different groups, we went over especially about gender identity and what each of those meant, and it definitely resonated with me when we got to the topic of being non-binary, because I didn't see myself as fitting into the two binaries that we have within society, which is being female or being male. I do not identify with either one, and so that's how I realized that I was non-binary.
I first realized that I was non-binary when I was about 15 years old, when I started drag, and I ended up using drag as a way for me to express my feminine gender identity without having to move and having to like transition and do all of this kind of stuff, because I was still in school at the time, and I'm from Ireland, and Ireland is still a bit behind in the world, so that was a thing.
I originally came out as gender fluid and non-binary and use they them pronouns. Now I identify as wholly feminine presenting, but I still kind of understand my own gender identity as like outside of that gender binary. I've been out as trans since August of last year, so a bit over a year. I came out as non-binary and trans, and I've been on hormones for a bit over 6 months now. I feel like people realizing whether or not they're non-binary or not, or trans, is different for everyone. I feel like some people work it out much earlier on than I did, and I'm 34 years old. I worked it out when I was 33. It took a long time to realize that me not feeling like a man, or me not feeling like I fit into masculinity, was more than just like not fitting into the stereotypes of being a man. And after a while, I began to explore my gender expression through drag especially. I feel like drag is a great way for some people to kind of play around with their gender identity and gender expression on stage in like a relatively safe space compared to like out in public or like around family or whatever.
I first realized I was transgender, well, non-binary. Just, I don't know, I always felt like I shouldn't have been born a boy. Like, when I was growing up, I always thought like I got kidnapped and I was in the wrong place or like the wrong family or something. Like my brain was in the wrong body. Things like that kind of progressed over time to a point where eventually it grew on me and I was able to be more independent. With independence, I was able to think on my own feet a lot more, and that really helped in identifying myself and getting over internalized homophobia and internalized transphobia was an obstacle. Someone who's listening might know that they're transgender or non-binary if they experience gender dysphoria or other things kind of similar to other transgender and non-binary people. I think if you're questioning your gender, but I would also suggest talking to more trans people. Talk to non-binary people, talk to trans people, do your research, check out all the YouTubers, listen to their stories and how they figured it out and how they came to understand themselves better. And hopefully that you can identify with at least one of them,
The biggest thing that people can do to support a non-binary or trans person would definitely be, for me, it's pronouns. So I use the pronouns she, they when I'm in and out of drag, but most people still call me he, him, and it's just the little things. Like when I'm in college, people interchange my drag name and my real name all the time, and they call me he, she, they. It really, really does make such a difference to me personally, and I know that asking me my pronouns when someone first meets me is just like automatically I know that I'm going to respect and like them as a person.
The simplest way to show any support as a trans ally is when trans people's rights are being infringed upon, to not sit idly by. Help to stand up to the injustices that they face, whether it be directly or indirectly.
Just listen. Listen to what non-binary people have to say. Go out of your way to include them in spaces, to include them in shows, in collabs, in your everyday life. Someone who is always there for the community, no questions asked. Someone who isn't very overbearing with their advocacy, who is very explanatory on the issues that trans and non-binary people face.
A lot of ways that we can help and support non-binary as well as our trans siblings is through donations, through other resources, through allowing them to take up space where people who do not identify as non-binary or transgender would take space in. I think it's very important that our allies allow us to do that so that we can share our experiences with others, and those that are still figuring themselves out or questioning themselves can resonate with things that we might say through our experiences.
You listen to them when they want or need things. I don't need to explain it to you. If it's something unreasonable, that's one thing, but the trans take would take literally no effort on anyone's part besides just creating it, and I don't imagine that takes much time or effort on anyone's part. It would probably take an hour for someone to set that up, and it would make a world of difference for all the trans and non-binary people. Being able to find your people is really important. Finding peer-to-peer information and support is really important and would make a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
I feel like there are so many like little things that like allies can do to make trans people feel more comfortable, kind of going into public spaces or like events or kind of things with family members or whatever can be the most anxiety inducing parts of like coming out. Good trans allies validate your gender and not just like try not to offend. So many people try to be a good ally by kind of making sure they don't make mistakes or whatever, and I don't think it's about not making mistakes. I think it's about a lot more than that. I think it's about seeing someone as the gender that they say they are and kind of working hard to change your thinking about that person and then like validating that. I feel like if you think about it more as I want to make sure I don't accidentally call this person a man, and more in terms of thinking about it in terms of I want to make this woman feel like a woman, validate her as a woman. It's positive and affirmative allyship rather than reactionary allyship where you're just kind of reacting to things as they come up.
that we have been given more of a space, for instance, on Twitch, on social media platforms. A lot of more people are coming out as non-binary who don't fit the regular stereotypes of either the male or female gender roles. I feel like it's an improvement on at least visibility, that non-binary people have been made more visible throughout the last year.
You know, there have been some rights in some countries. I don't know specifically. I should probably check that information out. I know that Canada, for example, had some law, instead of just Mr. and Miss, and now they have like MX, like when they ask for your information and stuff like that. And it's not just other, you know what I mean? So I think that's a step in a better direction, because even sometimes I'm applying for jobs and it's like male, female, wish to not reply, and it's like, no, I wish to reply, you didn't put it on the list. It's just not here.
Within the last year in Ireland, there hasn't really been that many advances in terms of things that support and benefit transgender and non-binary people. In Ireland, it is still not a recognised gender identity to be non-binary or anything that is not male or female, and you have to have a parent's permission at the age of 16 to even consider transitioning. So it is a big, massive issue, and there's a lot of therapy that you have to go through as well. One of the big things that I want in Ireland is to have non-binary gender identities be recognized legally, because then it would help with a lot of advancements. But unfortunately, there hasn't been a whole load of advances in Ireland, but we're getting there.
In the last year, as far as to my knowledge, I haven't seen much change, especially positively. It's a struggle that's been ongoing for lifetimes. Our rights are still being infringed upon, and it feels we've barely made progress. But I have hope that more people will become educated on what transgender is and means.
Whether Twitch likes it or not, Twitch has been like a good place for trans and non-binary people to come together, and I feel like over this year, especially with the pandemic and the lockdown, and trans people have had to use online spaces to find friendship and find other trans people to feel comfortable around, and I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. It's been nice to kind of spend most of my time online with the people I choose to be around rather than thrust out into public, transitioning through a much more public process, like in front of strangers or whatever. So I feel like for me, going on hormones this year and like I guess slowly transition and choose who gets to see what parts of that process, like by doing it online, has been like really valuable. This year we could probably learn that trans and non-binary people are looking for a space to gather, and that's why we really need a trans tag, and why there needs to be queer spaces more catered towards uplifting trans voices and not just including trans voices within the multitude of queer voices, because I think even amongst the queer spectrum there are some voices that have more privilege and more airtime than others, and I feel like there are a lot of good allies talking for trans people now. I feel like it's time to kind of pass the mic over to trans people. If you've got a platform, like give that platform over to let someone else, like a trans person who's actually had that experience of being trans, have their voice heard to a wider audience rather than like speaking for us. I feel like that's really important, because I see it's really good when kind of bigger voices come out, especially on Twitch, and support trans people, but I feel like they get a lot of the clout for it. It's just like people applaud good allies, but there's still like trans voices that are not being heard and aren't being celebrated in the same way as like allies are. I think, especially online, like you see it a lot on Twitter.
Some of the positive things that have happened in the last year regarding non-binary and transgender folk is that we are more open to allowing others to see our identities in a multitude of formats, such as Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as well as different things within the world with laws and everything like that. We're getting recognition for doing those things.
I don't really have any trans, non-binary people, which sounds sad, but it's my truth. I get inspired from myself, which seems odd and self-centered, but it's true. I face so many injustices in my life from not only being trans, but as a person of color. Knowing that I've grown and faced them shows me how strong I am and inspires me to face anything. I am not super savvy with the whole outside world, unfortunately, and I wish I was more, but I live in my little box here on the internet. I really appreciate people like Mistress Fox. I appreciate people like Nicotine. I appreciate people like Hobo House or Annie Krevice or London Bradshaw. Nemesis Network, like there's a lot of people out there in our circles that are trans and or non-binary, ContraPoints. They just do endless work to try to make the world a better place, the internet a better place, educational when they can be. And not everyone's willing to put the emotional energy into that stuff. I appreciate when people do that.
Especially on the Twitch platform, some transgender non-binary individuals who inspire me personally are Nemesis Network, who's an amazing non-binary streamer who deserves Twitch partner like you have no fucking idea, like you have no clue. Via Bombshell, who is trans, Mistress Fox, who is also trans, Harley Reckless, who is one of my mods, who literally supports and cherishes me throughout every single thing.
I definitely think Jordan Rasco is an amazing role model for trans streamers. I really love her. She's kind of very outwardly being herself and doesn't really give a fuck about fitting into any kind of box in terms of being cis or trans or anything like that. So Jordan Rasco is amazing for that. I think the most inspiring people at the moment are those kind of younger trans people that do come into your Twitch chat, do talk about how they want to be themselves and they're doing this, they're getting new makeup, they're going on hormones, they're celebrating their journeys and sharing that with people. I feel like that's really inspiring. Young queer people can teach us a lot, and I've definitely learned off of the queer youth being an older trans person.
For me, that has helped me within my journey identifying as non-binary is through my Twitch team that I am a part of, which is Team Stream Queens. A lot of my siblings there who identify as non-binary and transgender have helped a lot. They allow everyone to be themselves. They support one another. We support one another. We help in a multitude of ways with possibly anything that could come up. And I definitely love them, and they inspire me so much to strive to be myself and to be a better person, as well as my drag family that I have here locally. They have definitely helped in supporting and being there. That has helped tremendously with a lot of things, even things that don't relate to drag. They have helped me.
So my biggest non-binary influence and person that I look up to is actually another person that's on the stream team. It would be Nemesis LaCroix or Nemesis Network. Nemesis has just been such an amazing person and is always really, really open about their struggles as a non-binary person. Is just also just a fucking awesome person. I absolutely love Nemesis. Nemesis has made strides for non-binary people on Twitch, and I absolutely stan them. If you don't know Nemesis, I highly suggest checking them out. Definitely been a huge influence and inspiration to me over the last few months since coming into Twitch and stepping more into my non-binary identity.
Firstly, a trans tag to me would mean that we're validated on a major platform. I don't think YouTube takes trans people seriously. I don't think Facebook, I don't think Instagram takes trans people seriously. Twitch is a major platform, and to have a major platform acknowledge, support, and provide a space for trans people would be huge. Once these things are there, the ball gets rolling. I think the way that we would use it is, if you are trans or non-binary, you would use it the same way that you would use the LGBTQIA+ tag. People who are trans, non-binary, questioning their gender can find other trans, non-binary, or gender questioning people. They can all help each other. It's just, I see new drag people on the platform all the time because of the drag tag, and I would love to see that opportunity with the trans tag. It really means a lot to go on Twitch and be like, oh, more trans people, new trans people I've never seen before. Let me go hang out with them. Let me go see them. Let me relate with them. Let me network with them. Let me be validated through our common experiences.
A trans tag on Twitch would literally mean the world to me. I talk about it all the time, but I feel that the LGBTQIA+ tag is completely dominated by cisgendered white gay men, and trans creators, non-binary creators are pushed to the back. It's as if they're not seen at all. It would allow trans creators and non-binary creators to be seen for the content that they produce and acknowledged for the amount of effort that they put in. And just because they're not a cis white butch bearded man doesn't mean that they're not a good content creator. Without the trans tag, trans people are being pushed to the back again. It's what we need, Twitch. Get it together. Give us a trans tag.
Having a trans tag on Twitch would be amazing. It would allow me to let my viewers know who and what I am, especially if they implemented pronouns as well.
on special events, fundraising for trans. Although I'm part of the umbrella, I would primarily use the LGBTQIA because that's how I like to kind of put my Twitch out there. What the trans tag mean for many of my fellow siblings, it would be a lot of exposure. Whether that is good or bad, leave that to us, for us to decide. Just if you can have an LGBTQIA tag, although it is part of LGBTQIA, I feel like it is more of its own thing. You should honestly just give us the option to decide for ourselves whether or not we use it.
I feel like the trans tag is just really important for trans people finding other trans people and supporting each other's channels and supporting each other's growth, and working together for that. But also, like, I feel like it focuses people's support a lot more in terms of, like, if you want to be a good ally in the Twitch realm to trans streamers, like, that trans tag is useful for identifying me to other people and go, well, hey, you want to support a trans person? Like, hi, I'm here. Come on through. Yeah, it would mean a lot, I think.
We still have yet to have a trans tag on Twitch, and I think that having one is super, super important to our transgender siblings, our Black transgender siblings. I think it is important for them to have that tag on Twitch because it would help them to seek others who are transgender, to have that community, to be safe with one another, to be open with one another, and to ultimately be with others who have similar situations as they do, because often they do not feel that they fit in with the general LGBTQIA plus tag. And it is important that they have that so that they can form those connections and have stronger bonds with one another. And so yes, if you haven't had a chance, please vote for the trans tag. Thank you.